Hey guys, it's Pineapple and welcome to Marvel Hero Academia Part 3. In this video, we'll be discussing what it would be like if 5 more Marvel heroes were actually in the My Hero Academia world instead. I've got 2 other videos covering some major characters and some fan favorites that you might not expect already, and you can expect more as long as you guys are looking for more. You can follow me on Twitter at VocalPineapple to keep up with me, or subscribe and hit that bell icon and turn on all the notifications in that little drop down menu to keep up with all of my videos. There's tons of stuff coming over the next 2 weeks since we're hitting Anime Expo and 100k running, so let's get into this video and talk about this next batch of heroes after that intro. Hit it! So in the first 2 videos, we took characters from the MCU, Fox Universe, and Marvel Comics and tried to break down what they'd be like if they were born in the My Hero Academia universe instead. This changes things because people are usually born with their powers in My Hero Academia, and these powers are called quirks. Depending on what time period we're talking about, these powers are generally accepted by the public since in the current era, roughly 90% of the population has a quirk. We've got to take these characters and try to fit their existing backstories into the lore of My Hero Academia while also staying true to the characters, so I really enjoy doing these as a fan of both universes, and I just really want to see if it's even possible with some characters. Let's get started with our first hero in this video. The one that of course we needed to start this video off with, the emissary from hell himself, Spider-Man. Now, I've already covered how Miles Morales' Spider-Man would fit into the My Hero Academia universe, but Peter is of course the original Spider-Man in both universes who serves as an inspiration for Miles to take up the web gloves and take on crime. Now, to fit Peter Parker into My Hero Academia's universe in a way that still feels unique since we've already gone over Miles' origin, which might be familiar to you since some of those aspects are carried over into the MCU's portrayal of Peter Parker, I need to figure out how to set them apart. In the My Hero universe, Peter Parker would be a young journalist working for Shueisha in Japan who discovers a dark secret that leads him to the shady support item company, Detnerot. While he's investigating there, he stumbles into Detnerot's research and development lab, and that's where he gets bitten by a mysterious spider that gives him a quirk. Peter's quirk is called Human Spider, and he gets it from this bite which gives him the attributes and abilities of a spider. This means that he becomes extremely agile, limber, aware of his surroundings, and he can even cling to walls and shoot organic web fluid from his wrist. Now, I know that the organic web fluids aren't popular with everyone, but in a world like My Hero Academia, a person who has a quirk that lets him do what a spider can do, let's say, is probably going to be doing that with their actual body, since quirks are supposed to function on the biological level in the My Hero world. He could still definitely make some support item web shooters that somehow apply his own proprietary chemicals and solvents to the webs to let him use different kinds of webbing and styles of shots. But the problem is that Peter doesn't really have time to focus on this as he's bitten in this dark lab. Peter uncovers Detnerot's position in the Meta Liberation Army and uses a mixture of high-tech support items stolen from Detnerot and his own genius to create his Spider-Man suit to take on the Liberation Army in Japan and save his city from the hidden army forming around him. I really like this because Reed Destro is already sort of like a Norman Osborn kind of character, so having Peter be his enemy but also be someone who worked under him in this universe and got misled sounds like classic Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the most popular superhero worldwide, and I honestly think that Spider-Man is one of the most likable characters in anything that I've ever personally read. The opportunity for Spider-Man to have his own series of fights and battles and have his own source of drama in the My Hero world would be amazing, and I hope this gives you a view to how I at least could see his involvement if for some reason I woke up in a universe where Horikoshi got to live his dream of Spider-Man and Deku meeting. In a small Eastern European town in the early days of the wild world of quirks, society wasn't quite ready to deal with these abilities springing up and the people that could use them to do either good or bad. We're left to believe that it was a very similar situation that the X-Men find themselves in Marvel Comics. Pietro Maximoff lives on the run, but thankfully that comes pretty easily thanks to the quirk that we'll get to in a moment. In these early dark days, Pietro worked on behalf of his father to protect the Dark family business. His father ran a dark group trying to fight for quirk users with radical tactics. He was indoctrinated into this brotherhood of quirk users and actually operated as a villain for some time, however something in his heart didn't sit well with him. Watching his father go further and further in the wrong direction of peace, Pietro saw himself as the only way to put down the beast and named himself Quicksilver, before taking on his father's evil group and dismantling them with his wicked speed. It'd be easy to just say that Quicksilver's quirk is running extremely fast, but that would be too easy. To explain how I'd like his quirk to work here, we'd have to look at a villain for My Hero Academia vigilantes. The quirks would be extremely similar, and that's why I say that. Quicksilver's quirk would allow him to pretty much control speed itself, but only as it pertains to him. This means that he can become extremely fast, enough to absolutely speed blitz his opponents, redirect their guns at each other, have conversations, you get it. It's basically like he's stopping time, but this is because it's relative to how fast he's thinking and focusing as well. Everything about him is fast, from how he fights, to how he runs, to how he thinks. This hero will go down in history as one of the fastest to come out of the early days of quirks, where quirks weren't quite as powerful or complicated as they become over time, as they've been passed down and mixed between people's DNA. Our next hero also has a rather simple quirk that they've managed to turn into something great. Scott Lang and Hank Pym, along with Janet and Hope, are characters that I'm sure you'd recognize if you ever watched the AntMan films. Well, in the My Hero Academia universe, we've already seen Mount Lady, the giant woman, but that's definitely an homage in part to Giant Man and several other characters from comics history. Hank Pym is a quirkless scientist who fights on as the hero, AntMan, using self-developed support items that no one else is able to recreate for some reason. He's an absolute genius who discovers a particle that allows him to adjust the space between something's molecules while keeping the structure intact at certain ratios. So basically, he could grow or shrink things to certain sizes with some risk involved because it was all based on technology and science. Scott Lang's role in the My Hero world starts off when he's just a young kid, born with the quirk Resize. Scott comes along and he's immediately put on Hank's radar once there's stories of a child born with a quirk that's really causing problems for his parents and everyone around. The kid can shrink or grow anything that he touches, even his own body. Obviously, kids touch everything, and Scott was raised in a home without any real guidance, so he had giant toys in the house that went through the roof and destroyed parts of the home, and stealing was just something that he thought was okay, especially since he could get away with it. He could just touch anything that he wanted and make it smaller and put it in his pocket, and even if someone noticed him, he could just make himself small and get away, or make himself big and defend himself. So this led to some really major problems for him growing up. Scott's parents would eventually pass away due to an unfortunate villain attack, and Hank Pym would take the boy in, taking care of his education and helping him get his provisional license in formal hero education, while making Scott his sidekick and ultimately the successor to the name AntMan. Scott would always remember what Hank did for him and takes on the mantle of AntMan/Giant Man to defend Hank's legacy and make up for his troubled childhood. Scott genuinely changes and wants to help people, and although he does do morally questionable things at times, it's always based on a solid reason that does usually involve keeping someone safe or looking out for the little guy. And to be honest, if AntMan isn't gonna look out for the little guy, then who will? It seems like the heroes in this video just can't catch a break because we've got another one coming up here that also has problems because of their quirk in society. The Shining Baby. Everyone knows the story of the Shining first quirk user, but nobody tells the story of the dark, shadowy second. The child's eyes glowed bright yellow, and apparently it looked like a little blue demon to everyone. This baby, named Kurt Wagner, was born to an albeit mysterious foreign woman who was traveling in the country and died during childbirth. This led to Kurt living an incredibly tough life. Constantly persecuted by groups like the CRC who discriminate against quirk users of mutated or different appearances, Kurt started to wish that he was never born. He thought maybe if he wasn't, his mother would still be here. Because even if she'd survive, Kurt fears that she would have never loved him in his twisted form. He sank deeper and deeper into the between of the cushion space of society, much like some of the other characters that we've seen in our series, like La Brava, Twice, and even Spinner. They called him the Nightcrawler, since he'd only leave his house to bring back food or games and little things that he needed for his apartment, but never friends. He lived a life in one place and never wanted to go anywhere or do anything, resigning himself to just fading away and living his little quiet existence alone. But the world had different plans for him. Kurt gets chased by some people while he's out one night, and as he's getting beat up, he wishes that he could be somewhere else, and poof. Just like that, he's gone. He teleported away using his quirk that he'd long been suppressing because of his mindset. He's been living his life locked away, not knowing that he also has the ability to go anywhere at any time. It's a shame because he's honestly one of the freest characters that there is, and I guess he takes note of this to a certain degree, but not as much as he should. Not seeing it as his quirk, but seeing it as a gift from his mother from beyond, he sees it as a blessing. Kurt's quirk, Teleport, lets him do just that. He can teleport anywhere that he can visualize, and Kurt initially used this ability to run away from his problems. He didn't have to worry about getting beat up when he left his house to get snacks because he could just teleport back and forth. This went on for a while until a crisis hit Kurt's town and he caught the events happening on the news right from his apartment. Something snapped inside of him and he couldn't help himself from teleporting to the scene, and thanks to him, not a single civilian died. Kurt actually comes in, saves everyone, and even defeats the villains. Because of this, the Nightcrawler easily earns his respect from the town and begins to open up more and more, eventually becoming a full-fledged pro-hero that served as a sign to all that a quirk user's quirk or look doesn't determine their motives. Flying right in the face of that is our final hero on this list, and you're gonna recognize him right away because how couldn't you? Wade Wilson is, of course, Marvel's Deadpool. After Nightcrawler works so hard to prove that you can't judge a hero by their quirk, Deadpool comes in this video and just does everything that he can to ruin that. Deadpool's quirk, My Hero Academia is just X-Men with less steps, lets him break the fourth wall. Due to this, Deadpool in the My Hero Academia universe is pretty much unchanged because it's just the same Deadpool that you know and love from the Marvel universe. Don't love him too much because honestly, I'm sure if Deadpool ever did somehow interact with the My Hero universe, he'd turn into one of those Deadpool kills the My Hero universe events. I will say that it would be fun seeing Deadpool and Twice roaming the streets though, getting into trouble and taking down the people that annoy them, and you know that Deadpool would just make a bunch of jokes about how Twice is My Hero's version of Deadpool, and how it sucks that Deadpool himself can't create clones, but his alleged ripoff can. What do you think of these 5, and do you agree with their quirks and backstories? What will you change, and what other characters do you think I should talk about next? I am doing a villains video which should be coming out really soon to coincide with this one, where I actually talk about Mysterio in the My Hero universe to match up with Spider-Man being in this one and to sort of line up with Far From Home dropping. So make sure you check that one out and make sure you stay posted for more content dropping. I'm at Anime Expo right now, but I made sure to have stuff in the oven for you guys to eat, so clear that plate and slide back in for more soon. Peace, this is Pineapple, I'm out, time to hit the beach.